Happy Monday, everybody. Great way to start the week. I know everybody's super pumped about this webinar is particularly going to be diving into all of the consumer insights that our team tracks and actively manages for our clients all across the country. And so we're kicking off a series titled Your Data, Your Asset. Now we're digging into what we've learned so far of those leads that we are currently under management with. And we, to date, are managing over 3.5 million leads for our clients. And those leads are coming from lead sources from all over the industry. So we know Zillow, we know realtor.com, we know some of the other large players that are in there. And today we're going to really dive deeper into some opportunities that exist for those of you who are investing in lead generation or have just amassed an existing database and are looking for insights that can give you a competitive edge in your market. So jump into the chat because there's going to be, like I mentioned, this is the first of a series of webinars that we're going to be doing, just unpacking the insights that we have at our disposal. So to set the stage for what we're going through here today is really the core of what we want to dig deeper into is our clients are heavily invested in lead generation. Billions of dollars each and every single year are being pumped into building our databases. And the issue that stems in that equation so far is just like we invest a ton into generating the leads, actively trying to convert those leads. But we really, at the end of the day, other than them showing up in our respective CRMs, if you're using a CRM tool, you're typically blind to who that person is. We have very limited insights into who that person is on the other end and what ultimately drove their decision to click on a link, click on that Facebook ad, go to Zillow, search for property, click inquire about the property. So we have the opportunity of tracking what our clients or potential clients are doing, right? We get IDX feeds with property views, clicks, opens. All of that information is powerful to an extent, but we don't know why they're doing that. And so our goal with what we're going to be pursuing here in the next couple of weeks with the Your Data, Your Assets series is to really start unpacking some of those surface level insights, but also really digging in for those that are really trying to build out really robust, personalized engagement and nurturing activities for whether it's your ISA team, maybe you have a virtual assistant, maybe you just have a fleet of agents or tech tools that are usage based. And so we want to help you just in terms of understanding who these people are, because at Agent Legend, that is what our platform is all about. Our database manager is able to seamlessly connect with your system, and she's able to give you the types of insights that we're going to unpack here today. And so we're really going to dive into this slide goes into the data that's packed behind the insights that we'll unravel here today. I mentioned that this data has been accumulated across 3.5 million total leads in the United States, specifically 75 different databases that we isolated. And in those databases, it's about 45,000 contacts per database. So these are sizable databases. So the asset that exists within that database is quite robust. And so what we have the ability to bring into the equation is not just name, phone, and email, right? Those are our core, but we can also now enrich that information with our superpower is those 1,600 unique attributes: age, income, cookie behavior, credit card behavior. We've all heard of the 5Ds with death, diamonds, divorce, diplomas, divorce, I think is the other one, right? But all of those are pooled and commingled in our end to give you that insight. And today we're going to unpack just the 5 major sources that we looked at, which Zillow, realtor.com. We have Ylopo included, Google Pay-Per-Click, and Facebook for those that are using agencies or perhaps doing it in-house. And we want to help you understand what kind of leads do each one of these platforms attract. You know, with the team that we operate here in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis and St. Paul, we anecdotally understand cost per lead and performance. We know that, right? I think the industry would understand that Zillow and realtor.com, they produce relatively high quality leads. But at the same time, is quality also generating the requisite return, and how many resources do you have to put behind those two lead sources to make it more predictable and transferable into the future. And so we're going to unpack the quality of those leads, right? How long from the moment that a lead enters your database does it take for that lead to convert? And then how do we use this information to just adapt our current lead nurturing efforts accordingly across that ecosystem? Let's get into really the summation of what we found thus far. Again, I mentioned that we will be doing a series of webinars on this topic. And today is going to be really the surface level insights to help your team. If you're planning for budget allocation in 2026, you can use some of this information. So what we broke down here, the 5 traits that we had our data team really look at was, hey, let's look at age, length of residence for those leads that we're attracting. How long have they been in the home if they own a home? How large is the household? So how many people are in it? Do they have kids? Are they primarily single? What have you? Are they empty nesters? What the income levels and home equity are. So as we broke this down, we had this call internally with some of our beta users on our end for some services that we're releasing. And we use this information to inform the product roadmap on our end. And what we saw is generally Zillow is attracting a younger demographic. They are going to be more digitally native. And that tends to, I think, be sentiment across the industry. But what's interesting was also that they are also the highest income earners that we saw. So you're getting somebody who, maybe they're able to qualify for a home, maybe higher price points. They are younger than some of these other sources. Again, the age that we're looking at in these leads, that tended to be, average age of around 50. That was really eye-opening to us. And we don't know why that is, but perhaps just because the entry point for a first-time home buyer is now skewing a little bit older. And so you have, just with baby boomers controlling an amount of wealth, perhaps that is contributing to the age disparity that we're seeing with these platforms. The income I come back to, or the household size, is generally, this is a new, they have newly married, first-time home buyer segment that's in there. And we'll get into actually the types of leads that these are. But I also found it interesting that realtor.com tends to have a little bit older. They are also attracting a similar size. So perhaps this is empty nesters, because we see here that they have a lot of equity built up in their home on average, over $328,000 built in equity. So our one of the observations we made is perhaps Zillow is attracting a younger age group, whereas Realtor is attracting, whether it is downsizers, whether that could be the group and segment that you really peel back the layer on. And so as you think about how to use this information in your business, it is, well, who does our team, who does our brokerage best serve as you're looking at investing in these lead sources? And we'll also look into, like, how does Zillow adapt their product and realtor.com adapt their respective products for the leads that they're sending out and what they can be doing. So I thought that was very, very interesting. As you get into Facebook, Google, and even Ylopo, right? They're generating some of these Google and Facebook ads, but we included Ylopo because more on the agency side, we have a lot of agency clients, and understanding how they're typically going to market with those services. They are attracting the oldest age. We're seeing a longer length of residence in their respective home, multiple 2.5 people per household. So maybe several children on average in the home, and maybe are in that go-go phase in their development. And perhaps you're getting these people before they have graduated to the search platforms that are included in here. So some interesting key learnings and findings here. We then took that information, we went a little bit deeper here. So we went into like the types. So what our database manager has the ability to do is she'll look at, let's look at downsizers, move up buyers, first time buyers, and investors. And really what we found was, again, it was that these leads, as we categorize them, right? We pool our traits together. The definition of downsizers, move up buyers, first time home buyers, investors, right? And we're seeing that Zillow is attracting more first timers. And realtor.com, which we found was very interesting, they are getting more investors to their platform. So these are individuals that own multiple properties, maybe in different states. So as they're searching on those platforms, they already have two plus properties in their portfolio, and so that is interesting. If you're catering to the investor ecosystem, consider realtor.com in that conversation for you. And then Wailopo, we saw just their natural, they jutted out here with regards to, they seem to be attracting a good chunk of downsizers within their umbrella as well. And we see a pretty even mix with these move up buyers as well. What I take from this is the, depending upon, again, the types of teams or brokerages that you're leveraging, is the Zillow, right? We're willing to take a hit on that customer acquisition cost. If we know that these leads from Zillow are not towards the latter stage of their home ownership journey, they aren't winding down their properties, they're not buying their final property, they're just finding their first property. If you, as a real estate professional, even a mortgage professional, if you're on this call, use that in your discussions to say, hey, let's not think about the near term ROI on these opportunities. Zillow can charge you what they're charging you, because as we'll go a little bit deeper here into the webinar, is they also produce the highest quality leads. We know that anecdotally, and depending upon why that is something that is to be explored. But if I'm able to transact with that client for the first time, my goal should always be, how do I increase the lifetime value of that lead? And so investing there to start, and then making sure that you see the long-term impact, that second, third, fourth purchase with that homeowner, that's where you maximize your value with that customer. Now, with realtor.com, for example, what we could look at is, well, how do I, in working with my realtor.com rep, how do we build a better mousetrap for my existing database? So we go back to the size of database that our clients that we're reviewing. They have over 40,000 contacts in their database. How can realtor.com specifically help me in a way like Zillow is now doing with the My Agent, with their Zillow Pro solution, in the form of, like, they want to keep you front and center with that lead or with that contact, because traditionally agents do a poor job of that. They typically, even though their clients say that they will transact with them again at the time of closing, in reality they actually don't. Real estate professionals do a poor job of staying in front of their clients. And so how does realtor.com adapt their solution to cater to that? Zillow's doing a great job of that. I think you'll see from what we know of it, right? We're seeing how they are doing a great job of insulating those leads for their clients. Depending upon what side of the bench you sit on, I think that that's a good solution, and realtor.com can learn a lot from that. So it'll be interesting to see how they graduate into that. And Wailopo, Google, some of these other platforms, we know the capabilities and what they're doing. How do they adapt as well, knowing where these trends are going? Because you're going to start seeing a lot of those boomers now are exiting their properties. And that's transferring down. And how do we capture those if they're already in our database as we're moving forward? So that was a good takeaway for us as we were diving into this. So the next slides that we have here are digging into more of the actual personas that we identified. So because we know who these leads are, let's look at all of the leads that we're analyzing, and let's see what groupings stuck out to us. So in this example, this goes back to like what the findings were, and I already alluded to it, is like Zillow seems to have a digitally native user and they're a first-time buyer. I touched on the key takeaways that are already over here, but just how do I hire, this higher customer acquisition cost tends to turn some people off. But when you now approach it as like, this is just the first time I'm going to be buying and working with that lead. I have 2, 3, maybe 4 at bats over the lifespan of this opportunity. That ROI is certainly there for you if you just make sure that you do a great job of staying in front of those opportunities that are already there for you. So this one our team highlighted, which is the savvy single Sam. So what we're seeing here is you'll see the age breakdown, right? Generally in that, I believe 33 to 40 now that's me. So a millennial and maybe dipping into is it Gen X is kind of that next little tranche there. They tend to skew more female. Now that not everybody in this bucket is a female, of course, but there's a higher density of females that are generally the ones searching on the platform. You see the average income actually is below what we saw in the aggregate findings, which was, I believe, over $100,000. But in general, they're making $75,000, and that's in line with those that are maybe a couple years into their career at this point. We're seeing 1 to 2 as that household size in general. This housing density is just like geographically where they're located. So this low density suburban is like, think of your secondary, not inner city, not in the downtown areas of those markets, but actually on the secondary side of it, not tertiary, not rural, but they're kind of in that inner ring within the suburb. And maybe that's because the downtown areas are so perhaps there's local groups that do a great job of owning that market in the downtown markets, or there's just a propensity for those that just want Zillow as their preferred platform as well. And then you could see here they prefer online. That's pretty intuitive. Some of these others that you see in here, there's some interesting findings as well. You'll see the ages do jump up quite a bit, and that's why you see a general skew to the average of around, I think Zillow was around that 49 was the average age, but here you'll see that this is because there's some of it is jetting up over these data points as well. So I wanted to flip over to realtor.com because this is now where you see some of those learnings around what we're seeing with like the relaxed retiree Robin. We're seeing these are the 3 biggest that jetted up to us. You can see here how they are broken down on a percentage basis. The savvy single Sam jumps up again. Again, because these platforms they're both serving those that are digitally native. So you're going to see a natural higher percentage of just this age group, but you're also now seeing, okay, as I enter into the Gen X and baby boomer demographics, which platforms tend to cater to those? And you're seeing, it's interesting that realtor.com tends to attract a higher propensity of those individuals from at least what we're seeing. And you can see here that we're seeing a higher skew towards male in this range. You're actually seeing folks with a little bit more income. So they're higher income earners. And that's where we're looking at investors. We're looking at downsizers, those that have built up a substantial amount of equity in their home, and they're looking at unwinding their equity positions potentially in their home. And so again, based on who you serve and where you serve them, that could be something that you look into and how you blend this into your marketing mix and lead gen efforts. You have more kids in the household. So these were really digging into some of those personas. And again, we do this individually for our clients so you can actually understand who's in your respective database. And this was just, let's specifically look at Zillow and Realtor in this equation. All right, now we're getting into, I'm just going to check into the chat here. It looks like Michelle's answering some questions, but if there's anything that's coming, you let me know. So the next piece is around scoring, right? We've all done propensity scoring a lot, at least a lot of our clients have. And what that is, if you're not familiar, is like, hey, what is the likelihood if I were to rank leads in a list, who should I start with? And generally the sentiment is based on activity. And so activity can be search history, date that lead was received, clicks, those hand raisers. Where our scoring comes into play is we're going to use that information, right? That's one piece of the pie. That's the activity portion. But then we overlay what we're looking into in this analysis is like, let's look at the offline information. Who are these people? Where are they actively searching? Are they getting their credit pulled in certain arenas? Are they searching or watching certain videos? Those are the 1,600 unique attributes. And so we pull those together. That's when we're able to now focus inward into the databases. And so we looked into, again, these different sources and nothing really surprising, right? Zillow and Realtor are consistently generating higher quality leads than what you're seeing. And sorry, higher ready to transact leads from the moment they enter the system. That's a better way of saying it. They're generally handing over contacts that are just further down their funnel, right? These are more sales qualified leads than marketing qualified leads. Now, if we started to put in this average propensity graph or this grid and we put in cost per lead, this changes the discussion, because by no means are we suggesting that you steer your budget away from the YLOPOs and Google pay-per-clicks, because hey, we can still nurture those opportunities and they ultimately do transact. The goal here is just to state, hey, when they're handing these over, how should your operations be allocated? So what we found is actually Realtor's doing a really solid job of consistently bringing quality leads to the table. And in a webinar to come, we're going to dig into more of the conversations and lead nurturing practices as well. But it's surprising that the conversion rates on Realtor are much lower than Zillow. Even though the quality of what they're handing off is just as good, the conversion rates are dipping. And we were just down in at an event where I think there's now for Realtor, more of that accountability that is being taken into account. Like Zillow, they do a tremendous job of the accountability, the reporting, and making sure that there's ongoing coaching as to how to convert those opportunities. And so you could see just how big of a difference the conversion rates are with Zillow, how they're handing them off. Now there's different costs associated with that. This is a blend of the different programs that Zillow has. So some of that's taken into account with this. But one piece that it was interesting as we were discussing is, well, perhaps there's correlation with the fact that Zillow is generating more first-time home buyers, right? And so if we unpack that a little bit, first-time home buyers perhaps don't have an agent yet, and they're more educated perhaps, and when they're coming in, and they are likely to respond positively because they haven't worked with an agent in the past, and they deem that as wanting to get more information, and so because they don't have a previous relationship with an agent, perhaps that's helping with those increasing conversion rates. Perhaps the accountability and the coaching around the lead distribution is there. Perhaps it's the Zillow teams that are working them are just a little bit more advanced with their operations. They have ISAs that are able to take leads from contact to closing in a lot more efficient manner. They have the systems and processes already built out with best-in-class tech or best-in-class coaching along the way. That could contribute to it. So the learning for us is like, how does a YLOPO, how does a marketing agency, for those of you who are on the agency side, how do we help our clients with not just handing over leads and saying best of luck and that's on you, or hey, maybe how can we assist with taking that from click to close? The other piece here is also perhaps with realtor.com, we'll just isolate that one a little bit, is also perhaps because these are an older demographic, they tend to be maybe the investor segment, the downsizer segment. If they already had an existing relationship with an agent, perhaps they're already taken care of. Or maybe these leads are just inquisitive around properties in their neighborhood and they're not serious on day one, but they're just kind of those that like to sit on the couch and check out their neighbor's property that was just listed. Maybe that's some of the mix and could be impacting this initial conversion rate that we're seeing. Don't get me wrong. This happens with every platform. You got the looky-loos, the tire kickers, that happens. But perhaps just because of the mix of who's included in that database, you might see a skew towards those lower conversion rates, at least in the aggregate, right? We're looking at, in this case, it's about a 6-month time horizon in terms of like when a lead was received and when it was ultimately converted. So keep that in mind as well. All right. So the final piece here, we're going to start wrapping this up, and I want to get to some Q&A if there's stuff that's in here. But the goal of today was to just surface level kick off this series with some preliminary findings, giving everybody who's on this live, or if you view this as a recording, we want to give you a flavor for the insights that we want to bring to the industry. We know there's no I think everybody understands that we don't have a lead problem, it's a conversion problem. And where we want to be able to assist is giving you the insights behind who these leads are. Because if you can better understand the leads, if you can better understand not just leads, past customers as well, we can all do a much better job at providing better experiences for the consumer. That's at the end of the day what this is all about. Because if we can better serve the consumer, everybody wins in that equation. And so we're going to continue to unpack with the insights that we have available to us. You can see here, we have a couple that are already scheduled, but I want to make sure that those that are in attendance, you can either jump in the chat, provide us with a little bit of insight into what you would love to learn more about in your database, so that we can help you with that near term as well as the longevity of the health of your database. But we'll be interviewing a top agency in the next week or two around, they represent some of the brands in the Berkshire Hathaway portfolio, and they're helping them with lead gen at the corporate level. And so we're going to unpack with them the cold start problem. The cold start problem, for those of you who aren't familiar with that, is effectively when a lead enters your ecosystem. You don't know who it is. You might know it's Steve Girton, and his email is steve@agentlegend.com, and his phone number is 651 blah, 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 right? Other than that, you have a cold start. You don't know who to assign that lead to. You don't know whether it's an ISA or an agent, depending upon your makeup. And you also don't know what type of conversation to have right off the bat. You also don't know what type of inventory to send to that lead. So we're going to unpack how our insights are now helping, whether you're on the lead generation side of the business, or if you're at the brokerage operation or teamridge, how do we help you just eliminate that headache? So we're going to unpack that a little bit. We're going to go through missed opportunities. That's one we talked about. We don't have a lead problem. It's a conversion problem. We're going to go through how we can isolate and really help you feel the pain a little bit around, let's look at your existing database, and let's see who in the last 12 months bought or sold a property. And then let's see who bought or sold with you versus who bought with your competition. And what do we understand in those variables? Were you contacting these people enough? And that parlays next with the context to conversion. We're going to look at per channel or just in the aggregate as well of, hey, how good of a job are we doing at relative touches and ultimately leading up to conversions? Because there's two ways to take that. You have the old adage of dial for dollars and just continue volume, volume, volume. But that takes time and money versus, is there a different way as well where you can have less outreach, but just to the right leads more, right? So you're talking to less leads, but talking to the right leads more often. That's what we want to really drill down to in that session as well. And so also, we want to make sure that if there's anything that you guys want to unpack as well, please jump into the chat or email us, and we'll obviously plan around that, because we want to make sure that these are value driven throughout the series that we are hosting for you. And to wrap this all up, so we try to get in and out of here in under 40 minutes. So we're right on track here. For any of you that want to actually get personalized insights for your database, we do this for free. So we do that for free to help you figure out who in your database is ready to transact, who's a sales qualified lead versus a marketing qualified lead. We help you clean up your database. So making sure that you're working off of a sturdy foundation, you're scrubbing against do not call records for your outreach efforts. Because again, if your data isn't accurate, you're dead in the water. It's not worth it anyways. And then we'll also unpack just some of the insights that you saw within these channels and how to find more of them. So you got contacts in your database. Where in your local market can you find more of them is all within that complementary database analysis. So you guys, I'm going to leave this screen up here for a little bit longer. You can scan that QR code. Just go to our website, fill out the quick form. You'll jump on our calendar and away we go. And we'll help you with that and jumping on a call with you. All right, we got about a couple people in here still that are in here. Were there any relevant questions that we should jump on here? So Gabriel, the D's, death, diamond, death, divorce, disease. I don't think disease is one of them. Death, diamonds, divorce, diplomas, diapers. There we go. We got them. All right. I don't see any other questions that are in the chat right now. Yeah, Sophia, any incentive for participants? This complementary database analysis is gold. We don't charge for that. You get all the access that you need. Depending upon the CRM that you're using, we plug into the top 10 in the real estate and mortgage industry, where we're able to give you the types of insights that you saw during the call today. So scan that QR code, jump in and get that review done, especially right now, right? We're heading into 2026. So just like clarity and focus, whether it's just yourself or if you have a team of agents, being able to sit down with those agents and go through like the Dream 100 exercise. Hey, where are we doubling down? Who are we doubling down on? This deliverable will help you with that. So that's our gift for you guys coming out of here. Gabriel, if you have 19,000 leads in your database over 4 years, wow, right? That's an asset for you. And so that correlates really well with what we're hoping to accomplish for you is to make your contact lead information easier to understand, easier to execute upon. So your insights really dictate the action. The data is what helps drive decision making within an organization. Sam, did we look at Instagram? No, we did not. We can certainly add that. So generally, where are these lead sources? It depends on how they are signaled in a CRM. So I'll defer. I think Michelle is in the chat, but we'll take note to see if we can do like a social media breakdown. I think that would be really significant for those that are really focused on that lead gen from those platforms. We looked at the top 5, like I said, and these they weren't surprising, but we needed to have an enough of a foundation to make sure that these were on track. Because if you have too small of a control group, then you're not sure on the reliability of the data. So Gabriel, good insight. If you are in Canada, unfortunately, we do not have the ability for the database analysis in Canada. The reason for that is just access to the consumer level information is cost prohibitive. So for what we're looking at, just as a refresher, we have over 240 million adults in our data set. And we're able to, if we match with those adults, we have over 1,600 unique data points that are in there. So take those 5 Ds and compound those for unparalleled insight. And right now it's US focused, and hopefully as that data becomes more accessible to us in Canada, we can serve our clients. We have a huge contingency of Canadian users on our platform, but unfortunately we're just a little handicapped at this moment. Yes, Sam, the Instagram volume of leads that in that 3.5 million. So where all this was coming from, we had over 3.5 million leads that we are analyzing today, right? In real time. And so we just let's take the top 5 lead sources that were in there. There are a couple that were right up against that top 5. We just didn't include them for this particular analysis. Again, when you look at if you do the complementary database analysis for your own system, you'll get all these insights, and it'll be more specific to your business, your market as well. Again, this is just looking at broad strokes, entire US. We have teams and clients all across the country that we're assisting. And so this was now just pulling all of that information together to provide you with a little bit of direction on the industry level. I know, Gabriel, I'm sorry, but we do have solutions to assist our Canadian clients more on the executional side. So how we use the data and all these insights, it's critically important to first start with like the who are we focused on, and then right people, right time, right message. So our communications platform can possibly be a solution for you, but apologize for the lack of Canadian capability that we have right now. All right. I'm seeing the chat slow down a little bit. Oh, yes, Sam, homes.com. That was right up against that top five for us right now. And so we're hopeful that we can bring them in because we do, we want to make sure that portal wars are, we convey that, right? We aren't taking positions with any of these. There is a time and place for each of these investments, again, depending upon your business, your circumstance. So we will hopefully unpack that in a future conversation that we have in there. So that is, guys, we will, with that being said, if there's any other questions, um, we will log off here. And again, this recording will be sent out to everybody. But again, if you have questions, contact us. We will jump on it. It is Thanksgiving week, everybody. Hopefully you have some time away from your business to enjoy it, take a step back, and then it's go time. We enter the time where we got to make sure that we're jumping on next year's market. So that will be our focus, is really leaning into the insights towards the latter half of the year here, or the latter stage of the year, which will hopefully drive those decision-making processes for you guys. So thank you, everybody who attended live. Thank you, everybody who's watching this on a recording. And we hope that you have a wonderful week, and we look forward to hearing from you all soon.